Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL, not the Game Week 36 deadline stream, and it's live. It's around about 5:40 PM UK time, and I'm going to up till 6:30 PM UK times over the next 50 minutes or so answer FPL dilemmas from the YouTube community. I say it like that because this is also going out as an audio podcast. Can obviously do that as I'm doing it earlier. Why is there no deadline stream tomorrow? Well, I'm going to Aston Villa. Yes, despite no trains, Ricky Saunders, my Tottenham correspondent, is going to help me and my dad get up to Birmingham and into Villa Park for the game tomorrow, where no doubt my team will, as per usual, let me down. This will be a little bit slower for the viewers on YouTube as opposed to the deadline stream because, let's be honest, there's less of a rush, and also I'm conscious this will go out as an audio as well. So let me take you through the graphics on stream in the first instance, because that will obviously answer many of your questions. And again, I'm going to do this a little bit slower just for the benefit of those listening on the audio as well. Top right hand corner, you can see my team as it stands currently. So I am bust with Steele in goal, Kieran Trippier captain, hold fire, that's not going to stay, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Sven Botman, Mohamed Salah, Alexis McAllister, Marcus Rashford, more on him in a second, Karim Mitoma, Ivan Toney, Erling Haaland, Ollie Watkins. On the bench, big hauls for Kepa, Jack Grealish, Luke Shaw and Rico Henry. The plan tomorrow morning, most likely, although I'll have a check on price sites tonight, is to buy Alexander Isak in for Ivan Toney and captain Isak, and obviously vice captain Trippier. My intention at the moment is to leave Marcus Rashford in the team. Eric Ten Hag's obviously said this afternoon that he's a major doubt for the game tomorrow against Wolves. I read the situation somewhat like the Bruno Fernandes situation against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, where I think he'll either play or he won't play. That's my take on things at the moment. So I'm probably going to leave him in. I do think Jack Grealish will probably start as well. I have predicted clean sheets for Manchester United and Brentford, so I'm well aware that Shaw and Henry points on the bench could be there as well. But I intend to go with what I've got on the screen, but Isak in for Toney and to captain Isak. I can't see me, even if the word does come before deadline that Callum Wilson was starting, I can't see me taking a -4 to make it happen. And I still prefer Isak, bearing in mind the player I get, I'm going to want to start in game week 37 as well. So Isak is the plan for me. Below that, you'll see my top 10 captaincy picks in order of preference. I'll go through them 1 to 10. So it's Isak, Wilson, Trippier, Mitoma, McAllister, Haaland, Salah, Welbeck, Joel Linton, Willock, and you can see we're going into real kind of differential zone towards the bottom of that list. So 8 of the 10 players made up from Newcastle Brighton, with Haaland and Salah in there, I think, as the 2 players that could be considered as single game weekers with the captaincy. To the left of me, you'll see my correct score predictions for all 11 games in game week 36. I'll just take you briefly through them. So Newcastle to beat Leeds 2-1, Desmond 2-2, Villa Tottenham, Chelsea to beat Forest 1-0, Crystal Palace Bournemouth 1-1, Manchester United to beat Wolves 1-0, Fulham to win 2-1 at Southampton, Brentford to beat what I think will be a heavily rotated West Ham team 2-0, Manchester City and Arsenal to both win 2-1 on Sunday, Liverpool to win 3-2 at Leicester on Monday evening, and I'm going for another Desmond 2-2 between Newcastle and Brighton on Thursday evening. Right at the bottom of the ticker, for the benefit of those on YouTube, you'll see the remaining fixtures for all 20 teams. The colour coding is based on the FPL's FDR. Fixtures shown in light blue represent a double game week. And right above that, you'll see the benching dilemmas screen. And this week, my goodness, we have got benching dilemmas. So listen carefully for those, particularly on the audio. So, where there's 2 players together, the player with the tick is the preferred starter. Rashford over Toney, Toney over Watkins, Watkins over Martinelli, Martinelli over Odegaard onto page 2, Odegaard over Alexander-Arnold, Alexander-Arnold over Sven Botman with his double, Botman over Jota, Jota over Bruno Fernandes, Fernandes over Estupiñán with his double, Estupiñán over Mahrez, Mahrez over Grealish, Grealish over Solanke, Solanke over Shaw, Shaw over Stones, Stones over Henry, and Rico Henry over Tottenham's Pedro Porro. And for the goalkeepers, I would go Steele with the double over Raya. Should you have Pope and Steele, I would go Nick Pope. Steele over Raya, Raya over De Gea, De Gea over Kepa, Kepa over Ederson. For the benefit of those watching on YouTube, that will continue to rotate for you during the duration of the stream. Right, let's get into these questions. Thanks for all those who've joined in live. I see about 10% of you have smashed the like so far. If you do us the courtesy, hit the sub button and all those things that help spread the Planet FPL word, it'd be hugely appreciated. And I guess for those listening on the audio, a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening on would be hugely appreciated as well. Certainly helps Planet FPL. Right, let's get into the questions. Holostamos says, hello James, start Shaw or get McAllister for a hit and start him. I think I'd be inclined, because I'd want McAllister for 37 as well, just to get him in, you know. You got a penalty taker. I think he'll play higher tomorrow. I think there's, not tomorrow, on Sunday. I mean, there's every chance Billy Gilmore might start in the deeper role. I think there'll be, I did obviously a piece on Brighton and particularly Everton offensively from the game on Monday for our advanced tier patrons and talking tactics yesterday. And I think that there's certain concerns about McAllister defensively against a good side like Arsenal. Doesn't mean McAllister won't play deep. My instinct is he'll just play higher. I think the Solly March injury helps that as well. He's De Zerbi said March will be available at best, hopefully for the final 2 fixtures. So that's the second part of double game week 37 and their final game fixture at Aston Villa. So I think Enciso probably plays right. I think McAllister will play higher. So I would be very tempted on that basis, Holler, because I still think Brighton will get a few goals this week. Yeah, I'd be very tempted to take the hit and get him in, actually. Close one. If it was for free, definitely yes. For the -4, you are potentially benching a player who's very capable of returning. But what's to say? There's nothing to say United don't win 2-1, for example. I think for the doubler, it's the end of the season. Yes, I would probably do it. It's just a shame, actually, for Solly March owners that McAllister does seem like the obvious solution. Not so much for this week, but then you're going to want it next week as well anyway, I think. It's almost like you're forcing yourself to do something different, which you can do by all means. There's loads even with singles that you could consider, the likes of Martinelli and Odegaard at Arsenal, if you can get up in price. If you're really struggling for value, by the way, and you don't have anything in the bank and need a doubler that's a midfielder, I think Joe Willock would probably be the solution for many. JP says, hi James, hope you're well. I'm going to be honest, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather today. But yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. JP says, with Varane likely back, who is the better buy out of Dalot and Lindelof? The better buy is probably likely Dalot, but I'd go Lindelof. I think he'll play the remaining games. I don't think they'll go too heavy on Varane. They'll want to get him right for the FA Cup final as a priority. I think, I wouldn't say United can coast for the rest of the league season, but their fixtures should dictate that they should be able to get enough with or without Varane, I think, to make sure that they finish in the top 4. 3 wins needed, essentially, to be certain of it. I'm not sure they'll rush Varane in tomorrow. I think with Dalot, what you got to consider is once Varane's fit, Shaw goes back to left back, and then Dalot's in competition with Wan-Bissaka. So even things like the second part of double game week 37 is on the Thursday, and then game week 38 is the Sunday. You know, that just strikes me as if it could be one for Dalot, one for Wan-Bissaka. So although Lindelof is a dull pick, I'll be very honest, that's where I'd be going at this stage. JP says, Everton at home will park the bus versus a rotated City. Can't see more than two goals. What do you think? I don't think City will be rotated particularly. City aren't going to pick a team like the team they picked at Leeds. I'm very confident of that. I think it will still be quite strong. I think there'll be a couple of changes from the Real Madrid team, but I don't think it'll be huge. Really don't. I don't see it being as an extremely high scoring game. It probably depends how the game starts and if Everton change should they go behind. I've got it as 2-1 City. JP says, is bringing in Wilson for a -4 but having to bench Mahrez worth it? Upside, right? Upside. Like I said, I think the Isak over Wilson is influenced as well in terms of I really want to start in 37. I just can't help but think that Isak is ahead of Wilson and would start 2 of the next 3, for example, as a minimum. Whereas Wilson, in theory, could start none of them, would be my take. Now, with Callum Wilson, what we've seen lately, obviously, doesn't necessarily even need the starts to get the returns. Would I take a -4 for over Mahrez? I think Mahrez will start. So I think over Mahrez specifically, probably not. Now, if we could have the crystal ball and could see that Mahrez wouldn't start, then we'd definitely say yes, wouldn't we? Just on appearance. Well, I'd say just on appearance points. Nearly on appearance points. If he started once, you're nearly making it up. Then any return is obviously positive. It's probably a no, though, because you know Mahrez is very capable of that hole. Ollie Blake would like everyone to like the video. Thanks very much, Ollie. Hope you're well. Sweet Blue says, hey, James, quick question here. Who scores most points from now until the end of the season? Kevin De Bruyne or Pascal Gross? Sweet Blues is one of our patrons and has definitely listened to the differential show that we released earlier today. The answer, my friend, is Kevin De Bruyne. Ali Bismo says, hi, James. Have 2 free transfers. Initial plan was to just get to Isak for Watkins now. Since March is out, do I really need to take him out or roll the second free transfer? I have Gakpo and Alvarez to come in for March and Rashford. I know the general feeling is that Alvarez will start for City. I'm not convinced about that at all, actually. Not convinced. I don't think it'll be De Bruyne and Alvarez again. I think it'll be one or the other. And that might be dictated by if De Bruyne... There was a speculation that he might have had a little bit of a problem towards the end of the Madrid game. Not that we've heard concrete-wise, though, but I know a few people were speculating that that might be the case. I'm not sure it'll be Alvarez and De Bruyne again, personally. So I'm not convinced that Alvarez will start. So there's more of a case to get him in. I would get Isak in, personally, I think, Ali. JP says, who do you think wins the City versus Real Madrid? Thoughts on the first leg? Really good game. Interestingly, Madrid scored when City were dominating, and then De Bruyne scored when Madrid were having their best spell of the game. Elite level football, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Both trying to tactically outmaneuver the other. Really good technical qualities, as you'd expect from both teams. I would fancy City strongly in the second leg, to be honest. I think they have, Johnny said this when he was on COTC a couple of weeks ago, they have a real aura about them at the Etihad where they just think they're going to beat anybody there. So I do think City will get it done this time. Rob Picks says, evening, mate. Who do you think will score the most points, McAllister or Trips? If not covered on the bench in dilemmas, start Brighton defender or Mahrez. Cheers and enjoy Villa Park. I've got Estupinan literally over Mahrez on the bench in dilemma, so just about go for the doublers, which is influenced by the we're not sure or can't be certain that Mahrez starts, right? So I would go with the doubler. I think with Trips, I haven't backed Newcastle for a clean sheet this week, but I have predicted them for 4 goals. So I think there's every chance he's involved. So still Trips for me, and obviously if the return comes and a clean sheet, then you're laughing your head off, aren't you? So I think just still Trips. I think McAllister and Mitoma's very close this week, by the way. Partly because, like I said, I think McAllister probably will play a more advanced position. But if I had to go with one, mate, the honest answer is I'd be going with Trips. Be interested to see what his EO will be, because it dipped quite a lot last week. Whether it's above 100 or not this week, I'm not convinced. I'm obviously aware that a number of people may well have benched him for that fixture against Arsenal next week. Be interested to see. It doesn't look like many are going to captain Trips. FPL Gate, he says, hi James, got the right day today. Rashford news has solved my benching dilemma, so have a good one, pal, and to you. Yeah, I think just to repeat for those who joined in on the stream a little bit late, my take at the moment is probably just to leave Rashford in. And I'll summarise it by saying that I think that he's a major doubt. I think he probably either plays or doesn't play at all, based on his importance and what we saw with Bruno Fernandes at Tottenham a couple of weeks ago. And I just look at it from the perspective of thinking, if I benched Rashford and he was in the team, I'd be sick and gutted. Whereas if it's this way and he doesn't play, or even if he only gets half hour at the end, then fine, I can make peace with that. I'm not sure I can make peace with the idea of benching him and then he starts. So I think Rashford's going to stay in for me. Now, of course, it's coming up to 6 o'clock UK time. We may get some information tonight if United stay at a hotel, for example, that makes it a little bit clearer. But my intention would be just to leave Rashford in the 11 at the moment. Although I recognise for many who have got the close call, that's going to push them to bench Rashford, and I understand that. JP says, drop one out of Mitoma, McAllister, Rashford, Salah, Mahrez, Isak, Wilson, Haaland. Heard Rashford injured, but can we trust Ten Hag? There's no reason for Eric Ten Hag to make that up, but if he was, fine, I've left him in the team. I think from that, it's strong, isn't it? It's probably Mahrez, I think. Frodo says, if Rashford is out, is there any point switching Grealish to Mahrez for free? I mean, that was a way to go, obviously, last week once the City information was coming through close to deadline. I think you're probably Grealish and Morris will probably both start on Sunday, so it's a no for me. Maestro18 says, hi James, hope you're well. I want to do March to Willock, Greenwood to Enciso, and Martial to Isak. Can't quite afford it. Is Murphy a good enough substitute for Willock? Yes, if he plays. I do think there's a good possibility that Miguel Almiron might come back in though tomorrow. And it's the sort of one, Murphy, where you may not get that information close to deadline tomorrow. Obviously, look, there's every chance again people are going to be waiting quite late in the hope of getting some Newcastle information prior to deadline. I think there's every chance Almiron comes back in, so I'm going to kind of say no, to be totally honest. I think Willock's a really cheeky one for this week. I generally probably look at alternatives rather than going for Murphy. The one benefit is obviously after this week, you know you're going with a 4-man midfield, you can bench him, or look, if you did think Murphy was going to start against Leicester, then obviously you can play him again. So, not the worst call. I'd just be very conscious that I don't think there's any guarantee of a start for Murphy in this stage. Hal was speaking quite highly about Almiron today, saying, look, he's back to full fitness now. Who's next? Demetrius G says, all of my potential transfer plans this week involve a -4. If I want to afford Trent, I'll have to get Murphy and Ferguson as one game week punts. Are they both too risky? Selling Botman, March, Watkins. So, sorry, I'm going to have a swig of water. I just covered this for our advanced tier patrons on the team news stream that I just did. One of the guys there was looking at getting in Alexander-Arnold, and I said that I wouldn't bother now. Certainly, I think those who are thinking of benching him this week, I would say don't. I think like if I was free hitting this week, my back three, if I wasn't thinking about offensive players, would probably be Trippier, Schär, Alexander-Arnold as the best 3 defenders to own this week. So if you got those 3, they're not getting benched. And that's one case where I think you bench a Brighton defender as well, arguably, is if you've got sort of double Newcastle defence, say like I've got, and Trent. By the way, double Newcastle defence is not advised at this stage. I just don't think it's worth moving away from it for me personally. But what I said with Trent is, like, you've gone through double game week 34 and he's had 2 home fixtures and he's returned in both. Then he's had another home fixture in game week 35 and there's another clean sheet and he's returned again. And now we're going to buy him? I'd let it go. I'd look at other things. Honestly, I'd be looking at the teams who've got the doubles remaining, whether that's Newcastle now or even building into Manchester United and Manchester City, who both have good fixtures this week and a double next week. If I'd got to this point and hadn't gone for Trent, I'd leave it be. You've got to restructure your team, and that's part of the problem you've got. So the honest answer is, at this stage, as much as it might hurt, it's already hurt. I wouldn't go for Trent at this stage, would be my take. Pierce Darty says, you think you'll start Rashford and have bench order correct, mate, or likely just to bench from the start? I think I'm going to stick with it as it is the most likely thing, subject to any information tonight. So I think I've talked myself into thinking that Grealish will probably play as well, and that's a very suitable backup. I've got Luke Shaw as cover as well, so I'm very, very well covered this week. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave him in. Exactly as I said, Pierce, I don't think I could forgive myself if I benched him and he's in the team. So he's a major doubt, but he might play. And we saw that very recently. The photograph of Bruno Fernandes was more information than what we have now on Marcus Rashford, isn't it? JP says, how do you think Villa Spurs plays out tactically? Difficult to say, because Tottenham obviously changed things last week with essentially Emerson Royal and Ben Davies playing 2 roles. So Emerson Royal right back without the ball, right-sided centre-back with it. Ben Davies left back, moving on to left wing-back with the ball. Tottenham may decide to do something the same. They may decide to do it very differently because of the threat of Villa's left-hand side. So, look, Ryan Mason's had a full week to work with him again. He might come up with something very, very different. I'm more confident about the game than I would have been if it happened a couple of weeks ago. Villa have just lost 1-0 twice in a row, but both away games have been extremely strong at Villa Park. I think there's every chance it'd be quite an open game. Villa like to play a high line. We can expose that in the same way that we did to Liverpool with, say, Son's second goal. But they're very good offensively as well. So I think it could be an open game. I think Villa would be favourites in my mind, but I've backed us to get a draw tomorrow. That will probably surprise some people. So yeah, looking forward to it. It should be a good game tomorrow, actually. Stephen Moore says, hi James, thoughts on Botman and Watkins to a Manchester City defender and Wilson for a -4. Botman and Watkins to Man City defender. Wilson already own Isak. The City defenders for 37 can only afford Aki, Akanji, Walker. Aki would be my preference. I've thought about these sort of moves, Steven. So the other one I've been considering, say, Lindelof instead of Botman, and then go Wilson and Isak. I think I've decided not to do it. I'm not going to promise that I don't see Wilson in the team tomorrow. I think bollocks, I'm going to do it. And I think your theory and strategy in terms of Man City or United defender would be the right way to play. But I mean, I've decided not to do it, Stephen. Is my take, so I can only advise the same. Alistair Coper says, hey mate, with this Rashford news, would you start him or Diaz? Little worried about a cameo from Rashford. I'm not so worried about the cameo. And to be honest, if it is a cameo, it's probably so he can play right up front with Wolves trying to get back in the game, and therefore the space will be for him. And we've seen him score plenty of times as a substitute down the years. So I'm not that worried about it. It would be Rashford for me, quite clearly, to be honest. Maestro 18 says, if I have Martial, can he be worth holding on to now that Rash's a big doubt? Was going to sell for Isak. Yeah, I think there's every chance Martial would have come into the team tomorrow anyway, even if Rashford was available, to be totally honest. My best guess is that Martial will come in for Weghorst and Sancho will come in for Rashford if Rashford's unavailable. So yeah, I mean, if you're on, yeah, it's probably a hold until at least next week and see what the outlook is ahead of Gameweek 37. Gary Robinson, our Manchester United correspondent, says, hope you had a good weekend, James. I hope you have a good weekend, rather. And to you too, mate. Would you do March to Gross or take a hit to turn Greenwood to Enciso? Can't afford Mitoma. I'm not keen on Pascal Gross, and I don't want to talk about it much more because we spoke about it quite a lot on our Patreon pod. Suj is very keen. I'm not. So it depends who you're asking, Gary. Do you want my opinion on Suj? My opinion is he probably plays right back on Sunday. It's a strong no for me on Gross. I'd probably prefer to hit for Enciso, arguably. But look at alternative options, like maybe downgrading someone who's got a single, like Trent. I know that sounds ridiculous, but consider it. Look around. Because what about next week, Gary? You don't want Mitoma next week as well, anyway. Stewie Bryan says, hi, James. Are Enciso, Willock and Dallo the ideal differentials from their respective teams? Thanks and good luck tomorrow. I think Willock or Joel Linton from Newcastle. Enciso, I think, yes, from Brighton, yes. I think if I was free hitting this week, I'd be Enciso, Mitoma, McAllister would be the three Brighton I'd want. Dallo, a little bit like what I said, just a bit concerned that there'll be a bit of rotation in there. Not that there can't be for the likes of Enciso. Dallo's certainly got a better upside than the others, but he doesn't get that many attacking returns, does he? I personally might just go Lindelof, mate. Sweet Blue says, obvious move for me this week seems to be Alvarez and March out for Isak and McAllister. Should I be considering Joel Linton and Enciso instead? I think the obvious answer to say, my friend, is those are the right guys for you to be getting in Isak and McAllister. But it also depends what you're trying to do, right? If you're trying to catch someone in a mini league who you know is going to make those moves, maybe you want to do something different. So it's circumstantial for everyone. But if you just ask me based on points, I think Isak McAllister's the way to go, mate. Awesome 6971 says, hi James, all the best at Villa tomorrow. Is March to McAllister worth a hit using one free transfer on Isak? Have Shaw on the bench? I'm going to say probably yes, mate. Darko Tarandek says, hi James, I've listened to the Clash of the Correspondents and still can't decide. Who do you think scores more points until the end of the season, Ferguson or Enciso? Thanks and good luck. I'm going to have a slight preference for Enciso personally. Very, very slight. Just because I think there's every chance he'll get substantially more minutes than Ferguson. He's such a super talent. I think Brighton want to be careful with him though. So preference is for Enciso. Tough one though. Tough one. And for those who haven't listened to the two Clash of Correspondence we've released, it's highly recommended. Obviously Newcastle Brighton yesterday with Simon Bibby and Sam Murray, and obviously today's as well, Leicester versus Liverpool with Aaron Lagor and Dan Lord, which is not as FPL heavy, but it's some really good stuff in there as well, actually. JP says, start Kepa or Raya and why, please? So they're on the bench in dilemmas together. I've got Raya above Kepa. I'm backing both for a clean sheet this week. Just think Raya, as per normal, has got the higher ceiling because of the likelihood to be making more saves than Kepa. But you could flip a coin. Chelsea will be rated higher in terms of their prospects for clean sheet. But as I said near the top, I'm very conscious that West Ham might mass rotate this weekend. So it'd probably be Raya for me. Ethan has 3 Newcastle defenders and March and Rashford. Bloody hell. Which of the 3 moves do you prefer? March and Watkins to Enciso and Mahrez. March and Rashford to McAllister and Martinelli. Or Watkins and Burn to Isak and Akanji. I'm inclined to say the Isak option. Because it gives you the best captaincy, in my opinion, this week. So I think that's probably the right answer. I don't like the cheeky Martinelli one for a differential, though, at this stage. I don't mind that at all. But I just think with Rashford, even if he misses this week, if he's back for next week, we all still want him, right? And you're going back. So I think that option's off the table. So I think it's the Isak Akanji route, mate. JHSUFC says, having seen Brighton this season, how would you rate McAllister and Caicedo? Do you think both will leave in the summer, and where do you think best landing spots are? Good question. I'm not sure McAllister suits Liverpool in the way most do. He may well do. He's certainly got the work rate ethic offensively, but it was some things that were a little bit alarming on Monday defensively. Caicedo feels like a Chelsea fit. I don't know if that's, I'm looking at it as a longer term Kante replacement maybe, but I could see that if Chelsea have got the money to do the business on it, which God knows if they do or they don't. But I think both are very, very good and would get in the 11 of the, I was going to say the majority of the Premier League teams, nearly all of the Premier League teams. Eamon Fazeli says, hi James, I can either do Chilwell to Botman or March to Willock. What do you think has the most upside? Trips and Isak, my other 2 Newcastle. Well, I mean, with both players, you're probably unlikely to. I mean, Lampard said Chilwell hopefully for the second part of 37, and Zerbi said March hopefully for the second part of 37. But you're looking for the upside. It's Willock, in my opinion. Rich Jarvis says, evening James, hope you and the team doing well. No FPL message, just a big thank you, and see you at Villa Spurs tomorrow. Don't sell Lee Jackson, but think you'll beat us 2-1. Huh? I think Lee will be listening, mate, so yeah, look, it could go either way tomorrow. It could go either way. JP says, Lewis Hall start for Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest at left back. I've just predicted as much, actually, on the team news stream that I've done for the advanced tier patrons. And Gary Mantle, our Chelsea correspondent, was on there as well, and he did correctly point out, and I knew this anyway, that Hall we don't think has started left back in a flat 4. But what I explained was that I think if Chalobah's the other fullback, then you can move it in. You move Chalobah inside, move the other 2 centre backs along. You can play Hall more like a wing back. He's not even a winger, by the way. He's a midfield player by trade, but we saw him play quite a bit in that position under Potter, and I think it's probably an easy win for Lampard to blood a youngster and get him some more minutes in a fixture like that. So I think he probably does start, actually. Not an FPL recommendation. Disney Gooner says, hey James, no pressing issues for me at this point. Just wanted to say hello and thanks for your time and content. Happy to be among your new Patreon members. Smash the like, everyone, and good luck. Thank you so much, mate. Yeah, obviously, if you want to support the show, guys, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. I was going to tell you the content for the week's just gone. It might be a bit useless for you, but you can still catch up on the differential show. We did a Money in Football podcast on Everton's financial issues yesterday. It became more of an open discussion rather than a hard drill into the money side of things. Tottenham on Wednesday. We did a Q&A on Tuesday. To be honest, all of those podcasts are absolutely still relevant right until deadline, and some of them even afterwards. Project FPL says, would you use a free transfer to bring in a Brighton defender to end up benching Trent or roll? Play Trent over any Brighton defender this week, mate. Yeah, I play Trent. FPL Invincible says, hi James, is it worth moving Rashford to Bruno? Okay, fast forward 7 days. Is it worth doing it back the other way? You'll probably say yes if Rashford's fit. If we could see the crystal ball and know that Marcus Rashford wasn't going to be available in Gameweek 37, we'd say yes. I would say that most people probably have something very strong on their bench this week. Therefore, I think the information going into next week is probably more important than making that move now. Sophie Peel says, hi James, I'm chasing in my mini league. Which of these for -4? Tony, Watkins and Andreas. It's not available, Andreas. So even if he was to go that route, a midfielder that's at least got some minutes in him, you'd be better off going. What was I going to say? Sam Greenwood was a forward, isn't he? Wilson, Joel Linton, and Enciso, or Watkins, Andreas, and Rashford. Not sure how that works out. It's differential. Wilson, Joel Linton, Mitoma. Thanks. It's a long question, Sophie, but thank you. I'm liable to. I mean, you're saying your chasings are not the Mitoma route, so probably Wilson, Joel Linton, and Sisso. Tom Reynolds says, "Hi James, considering Watkins to Alvarez to enable March to Mitoma this week, what would be your estimation of Alvarez minutes in double game week 37?" It's another one where I look at those two fixtures, and again we're fast forwarding a week in time, and De Bruyne's not getting younger, and what's his recovery going to be like? But I do look at those two games, Chelsea and Brighton, and think Guardiola will want De Bruyne to play them. And I think that's the immediate relevance to Alvarez right now. I could only see Alvarez playing through the middle instead of Haaland for those two if the title was won. So that probably needs like Brighton to win at Arsenal on Sunday to get to that position. So the honest answer is 60 minutes or so. I know, shit, but that's my instinct at this minute. We might see it at this time next week. We might be captaining him. Who knows, right? But I can only answer that based on what we've got in front of us now. Stavros says, "Greetings, James from Cyprus. Hope you're well. It's the same dilemma as most of the managers here. Newcastle attacker to buy, as I'm only chasing a decent overall rank, currently on 500k. Is that's going to be the one, mate?" FPL Mosquito says, "Hi James, bought in Son, didn't pay off last week, expecting to sell to Bruno this week, but now have some fires to deal with elsewhere. Son to Bruno -4, worth it? Or can he get another haul at Villa?" I mean, just a hat trick there last year, and I've already spoken about Villa do like to play over high line. So in theory, it should be a better fixture for Sonny. So no, I'd be totally honest. If I had Son and Bruno, I wouldn't make that move for free this week. The information more important again, so definitely not for -4 for me. Flapjackson says, "Hi James, remember when you flicked the ball over Krellin's head?" yes, I do. Yeah, that was the moment I knew that I had to retire from playing football, mate. Matty H says, "Evening, mate. Best of luck getting to the Villa tomorrow. Best striker for this week between Watkins, Wilson, and Mitrovic. Currently on the Haaland, Isak, and Watkins. All the best this week." I mean, I've got to go with a double, haven't I? So it's Wilson's. Sorry, straightforward, boring answer. Antonino Gitter says, "Is Joel Linton a decent captain punt this week?" I don't hate it. But what I would say is I think it looks at the moment like Longstaff's probably not going to be available. And I think that does subtract from the appeal of Joel Linton and Willock a little bit. It certainly subtracts enough for me to think that I wouldn't want to go that far and captain them. You need him playing advanced like he did against Tottenham's the point, right? And I don't know if we can be sure that's going to happen. I think it's probably unlikely. Chris Bradley says, "Hi James, Share and Enciso or is Stupinan and Wilson -4?" It's interesting. I need a -4, I think, if you were to captain Wilson. Otherwise, it's probably Share and Enciso, you know. Lewis Mayer Barton says, "Hey James, no issues this week. Just wanted to say hello and thanks. Happy to be among your newest patrons, members. Smash the like, everyone. Good luck." Thank you, Lewis. I saw you'd arrived today, mate. Hope you got my message on Patreon with the Slack link, mate. Give us a shout if you need anything. Tom Marcannon says, "Hi James, come you Spurs." Yes, Tom. I mean, it says Coys. It could have been come you someone else, I guess, but it's come you Spurs as far as I'm concerned. Lee Sherwood says, "Is Salah captainable this week? I'm chasing mini leagues. I see Newcastle scoring maybe 4 in 2 games, but I can see Liverpool doing that in 1 game. Or shall I stick to Isak?" Liverpool absolutely could go nap on Monday night, mate. So, yeah, I've said I think the 2 that are viable from the single game week players are Haaland and Salah. So, we had a discussion about it on Clash of Correspondence as well, which are from earlier today, Lee, about Salah captaincy. I recommend having a listen to it, mate. The Woodstock one, Chris says, "Good evening all." JFPL says, "Good evening, James. Do you still think you can catch Serge?" No, I can't get him. The teams are too similar, right? And he wildcarded, not to block me, but I was working on a path towards players, and he's obviously wildcarded heavily into that. So just haven't got enough difference in players. You know, I'm not gonna. I want to catch Serge. I'm gonna not captain Isak this. I'm not gonna get there. I'm not going to get there. To be honest, I'm just quite content. I said 3 or 4 weeks ago I'd be really happy to get into the top 200k by the end of the season. I'm at 190 now. And so I'm just kind of happy to keep chipping away at it, to be honest, and just hope that it finishes as respectable as possible. And I by the way, I think top 200k these days, I think is very respectable, to be honest. I know there's lots of things, oh, you got to be top 10k and all that. Like, the game's getting so difficult because there's so many good players and there's such good content out there from so many different people. No, I can't catch Such. He's done me for the first time. He's done me. But James, didn't he beat you in the COVID season when the game got paused and all that? Yes, he did. But there's a big asterisk next to that. So he was going to do it eventually, wasn't he? Shriniket Cal says, from Newcastle, I just have Botman and with 2 free transfers, have a clear path to getting Isak and Trippier. Is this a no-brainer, or can one think of going without Trippier given his lack of points? Yeah, I'm not sure I'd go for Trips at this stage. Not sure I would. It's probably a little bit more expensive than what you'd want going into 37 as well, arguably. So it's fine. It's absolutely fine, but you're just going into what everybody else has already got. So yeah, I don't think I'd bother going to Trippier at the moment. I'd probably, because you've got Botman there, that's going to cover most of it, right? Arguably go Isak and roll, or Isak and take a punt on one of midfield guys for a week if you've got a problem in that area, if you've got a March, for example. Rob Pix says, for clarity on the previous question, it would be Dunk versus Mahrez. Can see Estupiñán on dilemmas ahead of Mahrez. Does it change with Dunk? Cheers, mate. Nah, I mean, if anything, you'd have Estupiñán above Dunk, but I'd rank them the same, to be honest. I'd rank them the same for something like this over a double. Probably expected minutes for Estupiñán is probably slightly less than Dunk, isn't it? Slightly. Dunk, you've got 180. You're almost certain of it, aren't you? So, same, I think, Rob. Axial Salem says, hello, James. What do you think of Xavi Alonso as a potential Spurs manager? Do you think it's a risky move, or would you give him the chance? I won't slip my wrists. There's an article I've bookmarked that I want to read about him that I saw pop up on my timeline today, actually. He's done really well. He took over Leverkusen, got him up to 6th. They're in Europa League semi-finals. I think it's a very good achievement. I'm more interested in the stylistic stuff of the football, and the honest answer is I've not seen them, so I need to go and watch them. My understanding from the brief bit of researches I've done is that there's quite a lot of rotation of position. I find that really interesting, and I like that. I'm a bit concerned that he does predominantly look like a back three, because I'd like to move away from that, but it does look like it moves within system. So I need to do a bit more research on him. From what I've read and seen so far, it sounds like we could do a lot worse. But he's not my first choice. You all know that. Maestro 18 says, do you think Enciso is worth a -4 to play over KDB? No, I don't. Richard Matthews has a very kind of what do you call the emoji with the pop out eyes? Yeah, he's got that for Rashford. I'd certainly say, guys, if you, I'm not going to get through all these questions. Literally, I'm going to hit 6:30 p.m. and I'm not going to get anywhere near the end of these FPL questions, guys. So might do a little bit of non-FPL at 6:30, but if you haven't submitted a question, I'm not going to get through many of these. I'm just doing it much slower this week, but I hope what I have covered will be useful to all of you. Right, now I've lost my place, obviously, because there's way too many questions to cover, which I'm not complaining about. I'm very grateful for. Jerry Dharma U says, I feel like I've been done there. Hello, James. Thoughts on Grealish to Willock? I have 2 free transfers and one is used to offload March to McAllister. Do you think starting Diaz over his Estupiñán is a fine move, since I don't see Brighton clean sheet? Good luck, mate. In that case, play the doubler. Listen, Diaz, we know he could be a 15-pointer, right? So could Estupiñán. Could. In that case, 2 chances that Estupiñán to play the doubler, mate. Davey M says, evening, James. Thoughts on March to McAllister and Watkins to Isak for a -4? Or just do March to McAllister and play Shaw. Rashford also makes the 11, so could get Henry off the bench. If you want to captain Isak, I'd take the -4. If you don't, then I wouldn't. Chris Duckworth says, hi, James. What do you think to going from KDB to Salah this week? Would likely mean going Salah back to KDB next week, then back to Salah for 38. I'd say, Chris, you must have an amazing other 14 players, and if you do, then crack on, mate. But it wouldn't be one for me, mate. Shriniket Kale says, do you see Kivior play all games till the end of the season and a good one for 37-38? So David Ornstein said from The Athletic said that Sleeper's out for the season. So I think, judging by Kivior's performance at Newcastle, I see absolutely no reason why that would change. He's an enabler. Is he in 37 the sort of player you should be starting with Nottingham Forest away? It's a decent fixture, but with the doubles and stuff, it's probably something better you can have. But yeah, don't mind it. Fine if it enables something else, don't mind. Chris Bradley says, hi James, share and Enciso or Estupinan and Wilson -4. I already have Isak captain. Then it's the free transfer option, I think, Chris. Luke Stevenson says, I have March and 2 transfers. Thoughts on March and Watkins to Odegaard and Enciso/Ferguson? False. Probs just get McAllister, but other plan would free up funds to do Mitoma to Martinelli in game week 38. I like the thinking ahead there, Luke. Yeah, I'm looking at manipulating the situation next week that might allow me to get Kane back in 38, which needs the money. It would certainly involve selling Kieran Trippier next week, possibly. So I like the thinking of ahead. I think an Arsenal punt right at the end there is probably going to be as good as any, to be totally honest. It'd be Enciso over Ferguson for me at the moment, as I mentioned earlier to a previous question. March and Watkins to Odegaard and Enciso. No, I'd still go Mac, and that's putting more money in the bank, isn't it? So at the moment, I'd still go McAllister. I don't know what your intentions are, right, with mini leagues and stuff like that, but I think McAllister's the right answer. Bloomer Kildera says, why is your wife not buying Callum Wilson this week after benching all his points before? Because she doesn't know how many points she's lost out on, mate. Pavanar says, hey James, thinking of getting in Shaw in for Dunk for my second free transfer. Don't really see any Brighton Newcastle clean sheet in the fixers. Should I just get in Share into Shield EO? Also just have Botman is sat for now. Depends, right? You're trying to protect position, then fine. But at this stage, buying a player just to protect EO, I don't think that's ideal, is it, at this stage? Luke Wilson says, hi James, if you think Grealish, how comes you've got him so low on the dilemmas, stuck between bench and Grealish or Stupenham? Because the reality is, when did Jack Grealish last haul in an away game? What we're saying, Southampton is the only one, really, isn't it? It doesn't happen often, does it? I don't think it'll be huge numbers of goals. And I mean, when we say Grealish is quite far down the bench in dilemmas, I mean, look at the players above him, right? It's ridiculous. So it's not such a, people say, oh my God, Trent's on like page 2 of the benching dilemmas. Yeah, but there's no other defender above him. Most of the benching dilemmas this week are probably for the offensive players. So that's why he's so low down. Plus, as obvious this week, I think, with them playing Real Madrid next Wednesday, he's a rotation risk, isn't he? That's why if I knew he was going to play, I'd have him a little bit higher up, but not massively, to be honest. But you know the answer. I'm going to say go to doubler there, mate. Declan Burns says, hi James, really struggling to find a use for my 2 free transfers this week. Is it worth doing Shaw to Lindelof just to save some money for moves next week? We'll be benched this week regardless. Declan, you must be the luckiest FPL player in the world if that's your position, mate. And if generally you don't know what to do, then yes, go Shaw to Lindelof. Michael Scott says, hi James, my benching dilemma not covered. Would you start Kepa or Raya? It is covered, mate. Kepa is shown as Ariza Balaga. That's his proper name, mate. They are shown on there. The answer's Raya, mate. FPL Andy says, evening James, thoughts on Dallo versus Lindelof as a second United defender, double up on Shaw. I'm going to skip that, Andy, because I've covered this a couple of times now. But Lindelof in short, but if you want to listen back, if you joined in late, I have covered this. George says, Kane to Isak for free. Can't argue that, mate. Triple Trapped In says, hi James, would Dunk feature the same as his Stupinan or lower down because of attacking threat? We're stuck between him and Grealish to bench. Yeah, same place as the Stupinan for me. Arguably because of X minutes and it being a double, you arguably put Dunk maybe even higher than the Stupinan. So yeah, same place, mate. Luke Wilson says, hi James, if you think Grealish starts, I've already done that. Shriniket says, what do you see chances of Mahrez playing all upcoming 3 Premier League games? 1 in 36, 2 in 37. If one were to buy a Manchester City mid for next 2 games, he seems the most nailed. Your faults. I mean, to you he does. To me, he doesn't necessarily. I think there's every chance Mahrez will play on Sunday and play Wednesday. Now, beyond that, God knows for Gameweek 37, mate. Literally not a clue. Not a clue, mate. Probably plays more minutes than doesn't. But I don't know how to answer that. It was 2 games for Gameweek 37. We've seen this situation change so many times. Maybe it'd be Foden by this time next week. Maybe the title will be done. Maybe City will be shitting themselves because they lose on Sunday and Arsenal win, right? And then Arsenal beat Forest and then they're panicking. Then they'd have to win the last 3. Who knows? Who knows, mate? It's like, how long's a piece of string? FPL Andy says, evening, James. Best United defender. I think that's very similar to the question you already asked with Lindelof, mate. Finley Scanlon says, Son and March to McAllister and who for a -4? The honest answer is, mate, if you don't know, don't do it. And the reality, what I danced for someone a little bit earlier is, keep Sonny, mate. Keep him this week. If you don't know where you're going, keep Sonny. Kyle says, hope you're doing well, James. How many net points is too far to make up reasonably between now and season end? You need to be very, very lucky, don't you? I mean, what have I been? I don't even know what I'm behind. So just 40, 45, something like that. I don't think I can do that. Can't see it. But then I also know that, like I said, the teams are too similar. If we were wildly different in terms of teams, then I'd say, yeah, you could make it up with a few different captaincies and stuff. So I think it's dependent on how different are you from your opponent. It's like answering the impossible, to be totally honest, Carl. Gay Term says, hi James, non-FPL question, does a goal from a throw-in count as an assist? Cheers. Well, as long as it doesn't go straight in and someone heads it, yeah. If a long throw comes in and someone heads it straight in the goal or volleys it straight in, yeah, it's an assist, mate. Greg Williams says, Haaland, Jota and Alvarez up front, Willock, Salah, Mitrovic and Mahrez midfielders. Benching March, or would you go Mac 10 and bench who? I'd do it, and personally, I'd arguably bench Alvarez. It's dirty, but it's arguably what I'd do. It'd be one of the City players in any case. Patrick Gordart says Botman, McAllister, Watkins, or Diaz, Joelinton, and Sisso -4 for the rest of the season. Just trying to think. Obviously, it would be Watkins because presumably you're using your quota of Brighton players then. The McAllister route for me, I think, mate, in the first instance. You can always move on Watkins to something else, for example. Harry Dawson says, done Solanke, Jota and Solly March out, and Sisso, Wilson captain, McAllister in -8. Thoughts on the moves? Cheers, James. Harry, it doesn't matter. You've made the moves, mate. So the only thing I want to say is good luck. I can't believe that someone had asked me something like that and I go, oh mate, you fucked up there. How horrible would I be? And I don't think that, by the way. But you've made your moves already. You're obviously happy with those moves. Like, good luck, mate. James Gibson says, plan to downgrade Robertson to fund Grealish to Bruno. Would you go for Cole Walker ahead of his double or a 3.8 million defender to allow him to move to an Arsenal mid in 38? Would only have Haaland for City in 37. No, you want more than that for 37, mate. Yeah, I want free City in 37, so that would take priority, James. So I think that probably answers the question for you. Hello, Heather. Hope you're well. Hobbs89 says, hi, James. Hope you're well. Would you start Lindelof or White this week? I think Lindelof, clean sheet potential's there far greater than it is for Arsenal, I think. Vishal says, why aren't you benching Rashford with Ten Hag's comments that he's a serious doubt? I explained at the start, Vishal. I just recommend having a listen back if you haven't heard that. Nikki Kassam says, yo, 2 free transfers over here. Pope to De Gea and Watkins to Wilson, or Dunk to Trent and Watkins to Enciso. Got trips Isak Shaw Rash already. Sorry for the messy question. Yeah, he's bloody messy, Nikki. Pope to De Gea and Watkins to Wilson, or Dunk to Trent. I told you I wouldn't go Trent at this stage, mate. It's the first option, Nikki. It's not, by the way, for those joining late, it's not because I think Trent's bad in any way. Just so many, all the good shit's already gone. Jacob McGinty says, hi James, Evan Ferguson's a differential this week. Thoughts? I prefer Enciso, is the honest answer. It's differential in itself. I'd be very surprised if Ferguson starts on Sunday. Vishal says, what do you think of March and Alvarez to Mahrez? March and Alvarez to Mahrez and Isak captain from -4. Yeah, I think that's fine. Anin says, is -4 worth it to go from double defence to double attack if both Isak and Wilson starts? I'll cover it again just briefly. That's obviously something I could do, and I'm not going to promise that I won't do it. My instinct at the moment is not to bother. I'm just going to leave it be, I think. Adam says, Akanji or a Stupinan I mean, if it's a start, I'd go with a player with a double this week. City always concede once anyway, right? Akanji's not a huge goal scoring threat. Noah Willett says bench Saka, Rashford or Martinelli. With huge reluctance, Bukayo Saka. I would not be comfortable benching Martinelli this week specifically. I think most weeks I would say Saka over Martinelli. This week I'd have a preference for Martinelli actually, and it's just what I saw from Everton in terms of direct vertical running. Martinelli does that harder and faster, whereas Saka's more, to the byline or cut back inside and stuff. Martinelli can be a bit head down, and the head down is what will hurt Brighton most, I think. James Brennan says, hi James, a couple of questions, and this is the last FPL one I'm going to do. Who would you captain if you were 40 points behind the mini league? Probably depends who my opponent had, but it's Isak versus Wilson this week, so the other ones are what they've got. And 2, March out for Buonanotte, a good move. Want to get Isak and Wilson, can only get 5 million mid. Nah, prefer Willock as an option there. If you can go down that route, I don't think he'll start against Arsenal. To be honest, I'd actually be surprised if he started either game in this double. De Zerbi puts great faith in youth, but that's 2 really big away games, and I'm not sure that he'll start any of them. I just seen Neil's comments. Says thanks James, Neil Kager. Thanks James. Quarantining with nasty COVID. Thanks for the great content to help. I wish you the very best of luck, Neil. For those whose questions I didn't get to, apologies. I'm not going to cover any more FPL stuff. If anybody's got any non-FPL questions, you want to pop them in the chat. I'll cover a couple off before we finish. If you came just for the FPL stuff, if you're listening on the audio, thanks for listening. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck. Play it your way. If you're on YouTube, good luck this weekend. Play it your way. Hit the like button on your way out. I can tell you that next week, Suj will be back with me on Monday for the Gameweek review pod. There'll be another 2 Clash of Correspondents next week. Be Fulham versus Crystal Palace with Dara Cohen and McTavius on Tuesday, and Manchester United versus Chelsea on Thursday with the 2 Garys, Robinson and Mantle. Will be Sky Fantasy Wednesday, and I'll probably do an Ask James stream probably at an earlier time next Friday. There will be a Gameweek 37 deadline stream, although it will end very promptly at 11 o'clock because I'll be going to White Hart Lane for Tottenham's 12:30 p.m. kickoff. As I said, if you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/Planet FPL. You can support us from as little as £3 a month. If you've got any questions, my DMs are open for questions like this. And for those who just want some help in life rather than their FPL teams, this stream's for the FPL help. Right, let's see if we got any non-FPL stuff. Sean says, hi James, 2 non-FPL questions, if that's all right. 1, thoughts on the ongoing United ownership saga and how it pans out. I'll come on to the second one in a second. I think the Glazers are obviously trying to extract as much money as possible. I think that's fairly obvious. I think United fans should be concerned that the grass isn't necessarily going to be greener. I think United is them and Liverpool, in my opinion, are the 2 most historic clubs in this country. And I think traditions for those 2 clubs are very important, and it doesn't move away to chasing things from a money perspective. I really don't think that's what Manchester United should be, personally, because I think United organically is so big that it can organically compete, and doesn't need the money that others do to maintain that place at the top table. Manchester United would always be near it. Too big of a club, giant. But I certainly understand, obviously, why the United fans want the Glazers to go, and that's not in question. And yes, they should go. But some of the bidders I'd be a little bit conscious of. My instinct, Sean, is it's nowhere near done, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's still dragging on when next season starts. Wouldn't be surprised. These things tend to not happen overnight, right? And I think the Glazers realise there's a few there. There's obviously enough interest from various parties that they keep pushing that up if they want to. Question 2 says, with City's dominance, do you think the league is in danger of becoming a one-horse race in years to come? Personally, I just don't see anyone getting near them. Yeah, but things will change. So, I know some people are critical of Guardiola by saying, he's a flat-track bully from a manager perspective. He only manages the top clubs. I mean, why would he go and manage a mid-table club? You'd have to ask yourself, wouldn't you? Maybe he'd really deem that as a challenge later in life, for example. He won't be there forever. He's obviously going to be there for a while more. Haaland's not going to be there forever. De Bruyne's not going to be there for. Will they just keep spending and do things differently? Sure, but then who would have said Chelsea would finish where they finished? Everyone was telling me, 8 months ago, Tottenham would be the closest challengers to City and Liverpool. And Liverpool were in serious danger of not finishing top four. So there's been things that are surprised this year. And certainly I reflect on the City team I saw play at Tottenham in February. And they were crap, to tell you the truth. It was rubbish. And I really thought Arsenal were going to win it at that stage. So to say that it won't flip, Guardiola spoke, ironically, the reverse fixture against Tottenham, spoke very passionately about wanting to re-energise and refresh the squad. And I think it's important that he keeps doing that. Whenever he goes, it's going to be a huge task for someone to take over. I think everybody is aware of the standards now with City, right? That realistically, unless you're hitting 90 points, forget it. I want to say maybe if Arsenal win their last three, they finish on 90. Maybe I might have that wrong. That feels right, though. That's kind of like the minimum bar to win a league title now. It's mad. And them and Liverpool as well have obviously raised the standards on that massively. So, but no, football goes in cycles. Like the idea that City are going to win the Premier League every year, like a Bayern does in Germany. Like, I just think this league's way too competitive and it's way too treacherous to have bad days. I think back on even the year City beat Liverpool to the title. Chelsea finished third, and the results, some of the results Chelsea had away from home, like losing at Villa, lost at Palace, lost at home to Sunderland, and actually if they'd just been as consistent, even though they weren't as flary, if you will, under Mourinho as the other two, if they'd been as consistent, they'd won the league. And you didn't get done like that in this league. Now we're talking about a situation where, if you you're getting into the bracket of losing 5 games, like you're not winning the league basically. I'm not sure what Arsenal 4, I want to say, maybe might be 5, but anything more than that. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think, 6. If you lose 6, you'll probably win the league. Now, bloody hell. So, no, I think it'll change. I think there's too much power in the others to be competitive as well. So, yeah, sure, they're the most dominant team at the moment, but I don't see Arsenal going away next year, to be honest. I think Liverpool come back stronger. Chelsea will have intentions. United will believe they'll improve. This Newcastle juggernaut's not going to go away. And my team will have ambitions as well, so will the likes of Villa. So it will stay competitive. Patrick Gordot says, my predictions for 4th to 7th. I think I should throw 3rd in there and say Newcastle 3rd. I think still think United 4th will just about do it. I do think Liverpool win all 3 of their games though, and finish 5th. 6th is probably quite dependent on the Villa Tottenham result tomorrow. So I think if we went there and win, I think we'll probably finish 6th. If we lose, then I think Brighton will finish 6th, and if we draw, I think it's probably kind of still up in the air. For Villa to finish 7th, they've got to beat us tomorrow, realistically, which will put them level, but their last 2 look more difficult than our last 2. Not that we're not capable of wetting the bed, I'm very aware of that, but Villa would beat us tomorrow to go level, and then Villa go to Liverpool next week, right? Then with a goal difference, if Tottenham were to beat Brentford and Villa get beat at Liverpool, then it's basically done. So it's still very much in Tottenham's hands to finish above Villa, but that's why Villa have essentially got to win tomorrow. So I think the right honest answer right now would be, I think Brighton Tottenham's a coin flip based on that result tomorrow between 6th and 7th. I think if we win, chance will be us to finish 6th. If we lose, Brighton will finish 6th. Relic Returns says, what's your favourite Bond film? I'll allow top 3. Skyfall by miles, in my opinion. I have to say, I always get the ones mixed up from the past. But is it Dr. No? The one with fucking Jaws. These things they look so dated now, don't they? But I actually think the Daniel Craig ones have been very good. Skyfall, for me, to be honest, I wouldn't even say it's one of the best films. I'm not a big film buff. I'm not at all. I probably get to watch a handful a year these days. But Skyfall is an absolutely brilliant film. Milan Rice Savvy says, hey James, love the content. What do you think of Salah not getting the fouls on him? Why do you think that is? It is quite frustrating for me as a Liverpool fan. I reckon Man City fans would say the same about Jack Grealish. I reckon Tottenham fans would say the same about Harry Kane. I reckon Arsenal fans would say the same about Bukayo Saka. I've not really got a lot to add on that, to be honest. I think it always feels worse that you're I know Arsenal fans every week, oh my god, Saka gets lumps kicked out. I mean, he does feel that way, and he does sometimes feel I watch games and Salah doesn't get decisions, but it also feels that way with Jack Grealish and stuff. So yeah, I don't think it's identified just to one player, for example. Dixie says, hi James, what would you do if you were Son going forward in his career? He's not won a trophy at 29, so do you think he should look to move because of Spurs' declining status in the Prem? Cheers. Thanks for ruining my day, mate. I think it's probably more... he's very happy here, by the way. Very happy. I'm sure he's not happy with the league position and stuff, but he's very settled in London and stuff. That's certainly the noises we hear in any case. I'm acting like I know him. I don't know him. But that's what we hear, that he's very settled in London and loves the club, etc. I think if a major bid come in, though, at his age, and because he's very reliant on pace, that Tottenham should consider it at this stage. Take the pace away from him, massive problem, to be honest. But I don't really see the circumstance that he leaves this year. I think he's pretty happy. He signed a new contract last summer, maybe, or so. So really see that being on the table. His global superstar, but again, he's very happy here. Stavros says, if it's the case that Nagelsmann won't have talks with Tottenham until we appoint a sporting director, wouldn't it be obvious that Levy asked Nagelsmann his preferred sporting director and target them? I covered this on our Tottenham Patreon pod, not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday before, and said it was blindingly obvious that Tottenham should speak to Ralph Rangnick and see if they could do a deal. But I think there was another name, sorry, his name's escaping me, he was at Leipzig and Nagelsmann was maybe the under-18 coach there. It might not have been at Leipzig, might have been somewhere else. But they were at the same club before as well, so there was some speculation that there might be a link between the two. I'm pretty sure that Tottenham have had talks with Nagelsmann, and I'm pretty sure that Nagelsmann's smart enough to go, what are you doing? And that's right. What I'd say is, I wouldn't say it's beyond reason that Tottenham already know who the new sporting director is and they'll just wait till the summer to make the announcement and do everything together. We shouldn't underestimate that sort of thing as a possibility at this stage, because it's been so quiet. It's been so difficult for those who normally get information on Tottenham to get anything. Most of the clued up journalists are saying, look, we don't really know what's happening here. Tottenham have kind of shut the door on us, and that's not always been the case. So I think Tottenham, quite rightly, it's frustrating as a fan because you want to know what's going on, but quite rightly are keeping their cards close to their chest. I think they'd have an idea by now of what they're doing, I think. And although they worry me, and I'm sure they probably worry you, Stavros, we should probably, until we know what the decision is, give them the benefit of the doubt and the space. Andrew Gronin says, when will Trent score a thunder bastard from the edge of the box? About the 25th minute on Monday, so about 8:25 p.m. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks very much. Enjoy your weekend. Play it your way. Remember, if you are waiting until late on tomorrow for Newcastle information on team news, as soon as you've got it, make your decision quite quickly, because it's probably likely to be very busy on the FPL website again tomorrow. As ever, play it your way. Thanks as always for the support. If you're on YouTube, smash a like on your way out. And for the benefit of those listening to the audio, cue music, please, man child.